So welcome to Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. It's good to have you along today, and today joined by Solly Moeng. Is that right?
You got it right. Yeah, exactly.
I like that thing, eh? So you're good, my brother. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for being on the show.
Appreciate it.
So tell us about you before we start, before we're getting into chatting about things that are happening. Tell us about you, where you grew up, and
I was born in Soweto.
in Soweto?
Diepkloof. Yeah,
Oh, wow.
I'm a Diepkloof boy. A lot of people don't think so because they think I speak funny. I get given all sorts of identities.
Do you speak funny?
I speak French.
Oh.
People say I have a funny accent, so I don't speak like a South African. So
Is
I
it
get a
people
lot.
that are French as well, eh?
No, they're not French, they're Francophone.
Yeah.
French is from France,
Yeah.
Francophone is French speaking. So
I'm getting a history lesson here. That's right. That's why you're here. You need to educate me, eh?
So I was born in Soweto, but I lived in France. That's why I ended up living in France. And I lived in Canada, USA.
With your parents?
No. Studies. Yeah. Not with my parents. And it's a long story. I had a French adoptive father when I was in my teens, and I ended up getting opportunities to go to France. And,
nice. Okay.
And then I got a job in Canada, USA. Then I came back here. So I've been back here since 2004 without interruption. I came before for 3 years and I left again. And I came,
So you weren't here during apartheid?
Well, I grew up in Soweto.
Yeah.
In the 80s, I was in apartheid. I was in Soweto. So I grew up in Soweto during apartheid.
Okay. And did that?
Yeah, I only left in the early 90s.
Okay.
1990, I left.
So apartheid affected
And
you?
then sorry.
You were apartheid?
Yeah, of course.
Talk us about some of the things.
Yeah,
Soweto
look,
was like
you can't grow
the
up
hub,
in
right?
Yeah, you can't grow up in. During the '76 riots, I was a small boy then,
Yeah.
but I did throw stones. I remember. I didn't know what people were doing that for, but it was like well, I was too young. I was about 8. I was born in '66, so in '76 I was 10 years ago. Actually, I was 9 going for 10, so I was a young boy. But like all kids in Soweto, people were throwing stones at government buildings and stuff. So you throw stones too. But it's only much later that you go to understand what it was all about, over time.
And now you're not
when you go to university, high school.
Stones, eh?
Well, now you realize that you throw different kinds of stones now.
Yeah.
Not the ones that break buildings and bring out blood out of people. But
that's right.
Look, people have fought for the liberties that we have in South Africa, especially the liberty, the freedom of expression, and we have to use it. The fact is, there are many countries in Africa, let alone elsewhere in the world. You can talk about China, Russia, but in Africa, where the freedoms that we have in South Africa, people don't enjoy.
That's right.
And we have to use them, because if you don't exercise them, politicians are designed to steal them away. So if you don't use them, one day we're going to wake up in a place we don't recognize anymore and wonder how we got there. So
1994 comes. Did you vote in the election?
Yeah, I came back several times. I came back in 90, just before around the time when Chris Hani was killed. I was in South Africa, but I was here for 17 months before I went back. I went to Canada. But so when the elections happened, when Mandela was released, I was here, and then I left. And then Chris Hani, so I kept coming and going. And then after Chris Hani's assassination, after the 94 elections, in September 94, I went away for 6 years to Canada.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back again for 3 years, and I went to the US again, and I came. So
now I'm here.
Yeah, I think you get better. You get to compare.
Do you learn as you go along? Being in different countries and
absolutely
being around different people.
Yeah, you get to learn to look. I grew up as a fairly shy little boy, I think.
All right. I wouldn't have imagined that.
I did, and I think living in France, I realized people regarded me as a human being like any other human being.
Yeah.
Here I was just a little black boy.
Yeah.
And I realized that there's a place where I'm just a person. And I think that in a way it boosted my confidence, because I wasn't looking at myself, oh, that poor little black boy, I was just a boy,
Yeah. But now, okay, tell me something. Apartheid happened in South Africa, right? So you've been to different countries around the world.
Right.
Did your race play a role? Is there a lot of racism around those countries, or were you just normally?
I've never felt it, to be honest. I'm not saying I'm not naive. I'm not saying there are not people who complain about racism, say in a place like France. But I have never been subjected to a situation where I felt I was being given a particular treatment because of the color of my skin. Really, never.
Oh, that's
I've never.
Okay.
And again, as I say, it doesn't negate the experiences of other people.
No, for sure.
I had a good time.
Yeah.
And also I had family, you know, extended family. You know,
Okay.
I was not just a little boy from. You know, I had my adopted family opened doors for me, opportunities for me. I got to experience French life, not just as a foreign student. You know.
Was your first girlfriend in France?
Yeah.
Was your first girlfriend in France?
She wasn't, well, my first word girlfriend she wasn't French actually, she was Austrian. Okay. But in France.
But France is like the place of love, right? Well, or what is it?
Yeah. That's what they say, isn't it? I don't know.
That's the heart of love, so.
I think all countries have a certain stigma attached to it. It can be a positive thing or negative. You know, France tends to be associated with food, wine, love.
That's right. Yeah.
You know.
Do you like wine?
Yeah, okay. I collect wine.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. But we've got some of the best in the world here, right? In South Africa.
There's good wine, yeah.
Yeah.
No, yes, we have what they call new world wine, you know, as opposed to old world wine, like in France and Europe. Much of Europe is old world, because that's where it comes from, right? Ours and Australian and Californian is considered new world.
Okay. So ours is more what? More modern?
More new world. Yeah, well, new world as in not you know, it's being said that the wine here came through the French Huguenots and other Europeans. So it was exported from the old world into the new world.
Okay, I understand now.
Yeah.
Okay. So fast forward now to what you're doing now, currently, before we get into talking about things that are happening, what are you doing right now?
Well, I run an agency called Don Valley Reputation Managers. So we look at how companies, organizations, individuals, mostly corporate, you know, government departments obviously manage their image, how they do things that might end up with them on the back foot in the defensive, either vis-a-vis media or in the courts, in the CCMA. So what sort of things companies should avoid doing so that they end up...
crisis management, basically.
Well, crisis management is almost like a nuclear arsenal. You have to have crisis management tools, know-how, but the aim is never to use it.
That's right.
Like you have your gun at home in your safe.
That's right.
You don't really wake up every morning and say, God, I want an opportunity to use it.
No,
but you need to know how to use it when the opportunity comes. But you have to do everything in your power to make sure you never get there.
So your ammunition, basically, you've got to...
Yeah, every day companies manage, depending on the sector. If you're in retail, for instance, it's an everyday thing, but you manage issues. So you have to know how to manage the issues that get thrown at you. As a brand, things happen, and if you manage them well or badly, you lose or you win. If you look at recent examples, for example, if you look at Capitec Bank, you know, it was accused of a number of things. It was very good in the way it responded to those. It was very quick, and it didn't appear to be hiding anything. It was very direct. It responded to each individual accusation very, very clearly.
And that's kind of
that was very good.
Right?
Exactly. But if you look at companies like KPMG, which is still playing hide and seek, if you look at Tiger Brands now, which is in trouble, the CEO came out and he was all but defensive. If you think a company like Ford South Africa with Cougar, for instance, when they had an opportunity to respond in a particular way to an issue that got thrown at them, they decided to play hide and seek. But doing that can become very costly. If you look at MTN in Nigeria, same thing. It was for 3 years it was told to recur its customers, but it didn't listen. And finally, it was hit with a $52 billion fine, and everybody started saying, "Oh, how can they do this?" But they were given a warning for 3 years. So, look, if you take any company, the aim of any company is to deliver shareholder value. And we're going to talk about CSI and stuff like that, but those are tools to achieve other things. But if you invest in a company, you want to make sure that your investment is going to grow.
Absolutely.
And the people running that company must deliver value. They must focus as much energy and resources delivering value for the shareholders. You don't want to be in a position where your attention is diverted from that core function to running in the course, in the media, trying to explain yourself.
That diverts,
So what we do, corporate reputation management, is to help companies never get there. So we, like every organization has to conduct what you call a risk assessment. So you do a risk assessment from a reputational perspective. So if you have a company, for instance, that does delivery trucks all over the place. We look at what could possibly embarrass you. Are your drivers certified? Are your cars in good road? Do they respect the rules of the roads? You know, or maybe the secretary in the office, when she answers the phone or he answers the phone, is he, you know, courteous? You know?
Yeah.
Etc. All of those things. So things that could end up with people saying nasty things about you. If I were Tiger Brands, for instance, because food is very important. People eat that food every day.
Absolutely.
They have to make sure their standards at source are such that nothing could happen. You know, the health, quality, cleanliness of the facilities they use, the training, the competence of the people who are employed there, the food specialists, if you have those, which they should have them. All of those things. If you don't have the right people, we end up in trouble. If you look at a lot of SOEs in South Africa, they are in trouble because they put the wrong people in positions that are very, very strategic.
That's right.
We had Prasa, for instance, with a head of engineering who had lied about his qualifications. He ended up ordering locomotives that were not suited for
that was crazy, eh?
Exactly. So reputation
you can't
management.
defend that, though, can you?
No. So reputation management is not about reacting to things. It's about putting measures and systems in place to make sure you never have to be in the defensive.
But our Tiger Brands, I don't understand the approach, because the Minister of Health is not going to come out and say something has happened if it hasn't. He would have had to have done a full investigation. Right. Because government can also be liable as well if they say the wrong thing, which they wouldn't. Right. They're not going to alarm South Africa and say something happened when it didn't. So Tiger Brands, I think they should just I don't know, I think they should change their approach.
Well, I think that a lot of companies, Tiger Brands can be compared to Ford Cougar. They make two mistakes. One, they listen to insurers. Insurers always tell you never accept responsibility, right?
Which
and then lawyers always tell you no comment.
Yeah,
right.
Which
that's what
work.
Ford Cougar did. That's what this gentleman, Dogal, the CEO of Tiger Brands is trying to do. But there's another group of people you should be listening to. Reputation people.
That's right.
Sometimes you reach for the heart, with the heart.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Ford South Africa had reached out to the family of the gentleman who died in the first Ford that got burned in it was in Wilderness.
That's right.
You know, he died. Had Ford gone to the family to say, we're sorry, this shouldn't happen in our car. How can we help you? They would probably have spent
less. For the funeral.
Yeah, we'll pay for the funeral, maybe give you a little sound to take care of this and that.
South Africa would have said, oh my goodness, look at that.
Exactly. What did they do? They waited for 53 cars later. They were still in denial. They were still saying, it can't be our car, it can't be us.
And there your reputation's already gone.
Yeah, people were already staying away from the car. They wanted to sell their cars. The value of the cars went down. Nobody wanted to buy them. And so sometimes it's better to react with the heart. Sometimes, you know, insurers and lawyers don't always that. It's always looking after the interests. Obviously, the insurance people don't want to end up paying huge bills, and the lawyers are there to tell you to shut up. They will talk for you.
But I think Tiger Brands, your role as a CEO is to protect the brand, but sometimes you have to risk your brand to protect your brand. So Tiger Brands, I would have said, okay, give us a day or two or whatever, a week or whatever, we're going to do our own investigation, and then come back and say, right, we found this, we fired these people, we've taken these steps, we've done this, and the public can say, oh my goodness, but look, they've actually done something, you know?
Yeah, well,
is that what you would have done?
Well, look, like you said at the beginning, when government gave them their own information, they shouldn't have said, no, we don't trust us, we'll do our own. They should have said, wow, that's interesting, please, let's just to be sure. But don't give the impression that you're throwing this out into the bin, which is what the impression that he gave.
Who's a PR company that was closed down in the UK?
Pearl Pottinger.
Yeah, that was hectic, eh?
Yeah, that was hectic too.
So you've got to do the right thing, and sometimes you have to throw people.
Sometimes you do the right thing in the beginning, you pay a little price, rather than wait and pay a huge price.
Well, the company is closed down, right?
So it's gone. People,
it's hectic.
It's untouchable.
So now let's get to something very serious, not that wasn't serious.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on land expropriation? It's a hectic topic.
Look, land. Okay, let's talk about land transformation. The issue of land will always be with us.
I think land transformation is a better word than expropriation.
Land transformation is better. The question for me is not whether or not it should be done, it's how it should be done.
That's right.
All right. We don't want to end up in a place like Zimbabwe.
No.
And the thing is, it's such an emotional issue. If you let someone like Malema run with it, it's going to create, he's very good at making young people angry, young unemployed people in the townships angry. The ANC now is being pulled by Malema because they're afraid that he's taking the left. You know, the ANC is center left. Malema is extreme left. That place in the extreme left that was supposed to be occupied by the South African Communist Party is now taken over by Malema.
Yes.
And the ANC is worried about that. That's why now they're beginning to ask him to come and join them and that sort of thing. So when Malema raises issues like that, he knows how to speak the lingo. You know, people listen to him and they get excited very easily. He knows how to play that game. But the thing is, the mistake that he makes is that he goes racial and racist.
That's right.
Which is not
Sometimes
good.
he overkills it.
Yeah. I think that for me, anybody who wants to be a leader of South Africa must accept one of the things that they must accept without question is we'll always be a diverse country.
That's right.
Black, white, colored, Indian, whatever you call it, we all belong to this country. Anyone who aspires to be a leader and starts making threats against any one group is not a good leader for South Africa. Because the thing is, if you think about it, if you think of throughout history of humanity, any country where they try genocide, it's never successful. No. All you do is kill people, there's bloodshed, unhappiness, anger, it keeps on forever. You can never, even Hitler never got to kill all the Jews.
No, he didn't.
You know, even in Rwanda, they never got to kill all the Tutsis.
No.
So you create, we have an amazing country in this country, within South Africa. We have amazing people, diverse talent throughout the country. And then Malema, instead of threatening people because of the color of their skin, he should say, guys, let's find a way to deal with this thing. Because the thing is, there are bad people and white people and good people in all groups.
Yeah.
And I've seen white farmers who've willingly shared with their employees.
I have as well. Yeah.
And
but then you get the other side where they don't share.
Yeah, sure. But there's legislation. You see,
sure.
There's no need to change the constitution.
No.
All the constitution experts will tell you that there's no need to change the constitution. Had the ANC had the will to implement the law properly, maybe we would have gone for. But a lot of money was stolen. I mean, if you think about the Estima in the Free State, that money that was meant to support emerging black farmers ended up in Dubai with the Guptas. It's not the first time. There were issues with the land bank as well. Several years ago, some of those billions and billions were stolen by ANC connected people instead of going to the right places.
Bags of money going over the.
So I think the ANC needs to look in the mirror from time to time and acknowledge what it sees. We see the land issue has to be managed. It has to be done, but we need leadership with a vision, and leadership that's not driven by anger. And they must have a long-term vision. They must be balanced. They must have emotional intelligence. They must be able to say, guys, to all of us South Africans, we need to sort this thing out. If we don't sort it out, it's going to damage this country. Let's give ourselves 5 years or 10 years or whatever, and have a plan that everybody agrees to, that this is what's going to happen.
It can backfire. It can't backfire if it's done wrong.
If it's done wrong, it can backfire, and it will backfire. The thing is, Malema, and I don't know if you saw the article I wrote for Fin24 last week.
No.
I say Malema seems to think that there are no white guys there with guns. He thinks that people will just walk away. Okay, you want to land? Okay, some people are going to shoot back because there's going to be blood. Some people are so.
We don't want that.
We don't want that. And it's not a matter of people will win or not. That's not the point. No. The point is there will be guns, innocent. Whenever guns come out, innocent people lose their lives.
And already the UK is asking questions.
So we need leadership, and I feel that right now all the people who are supposed to be leaders, including Ramaphosa, seems to be taking sides. Yeah, well, he's saying we're going to take this land, with expropriate. I think the language is bad.
Can I tell you what's going to happen? My prediction. I don't think this is going to happen before 2019. Yeah. I think it's going to be a talking point, hence the name of my show. Right. But it's going to be a talking point up until 2019. They're going to put everything in place so that come 2019, we're going to vote. ANC is going to win, and then we're going to go back into
talking
about it again.
Okay. Yeah, it's possible. Look, for now, between now and then, it's a very big election issue.
It does need to be debated. It does need to happen.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to happen immediately.
No. I agree with you.
And if it does, it's going to be, as you say, there's going to be bloodshed. One thing we need to understand is that I can't help that I was born white. You can't help that you were born black. It's just how we treat one another and how
it's more pink and brown. But
that's where that's where the problem comes in this country.
Right.
That where yes, you do get white racists. Absolutely, you do. And those people need to be dealt with by the justice system.
You get black racists too.
You do.
We have in South Africa the Equality Court. We have all the institutions that we need to deal with extremism, no matter where it comes from, and we have to use those institutions.
Courts, you know. I think we need to go that way.
Yeah, but whenever people have been taken to the Equality Court, they've been dealt with. So we need to promote these instances. We don't need to solve things like we would have solved them in 200 years ago.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a modern country.
What was that lady's name? Penny Sparrow.
Penny Sparrow.
She got a fine, right?
Yeah, there was another lady in Joburg. Yeah, that one. So I think, look, there's talk of a commission being put together to come up with ways, modalities of dealing with the land issue. But there's got to be a will on both sides.
There has to be.
I know people who have large tracts of land who are not using it.
Yeah.
Like
so much land. I mean, why do you need so much?
So South Africans.
The government also owns a lot of land, eh?
Yeah, sure. No, but I'm saying maybe there's got to be some kind of audit.
Yeah.
Because I know there are talks of several audits that have been made. Each one of them seems to be questioned by the group that's not happy with it. So maybe we need a more objective audit. I don't know who would do an objective audit that would say this is the land that's available. This is what is being controlled by the government. This is in the private sector, and these are the needs. How do we?
Maybe we need an outside country or something.
Because the things that we're not thinking about also is that, suppose land was taken away, say 150 years ago. It's reasonable to assume that the population, the black population, was much smaller, maybe 2-3 times smaller than it is today. So now you're taking many more people. Who's going to get land? Who's not going to get? On what basis? Can I just arrive with my brown skin and say, okay, I want a piece of land, you know, because I was born in Soweto?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And obviously there must be an age limit as well.
So I don't know. I'm just asking questions. Point is, we need to. There's got to be some way to deal with this thing. My view is that this is what Mugabe did. It's an emotional thing. We want to take our land. He raised this thing when he knew he was about to lose to the MDC at the time, and he won. Here in South Africa, the EFF, now that Zuma is not in power anymore, he was the low-hanging political fruit for them. He's not in power anymore. They had to find somebody else. Right. And this is the issue that's driving Malema now.
But I think the ANC must distance themselves a bit.
They won't.
Themselves. No, a bit from that, because now the only people that are speaking is the EFF.
Right.
And they're not in government.
Well, the ANC is speaking. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
ANC.
Can I tell you, there was an EFF MP that I was speaking to the other day.
Right.
And he said that all land must be expropriated. Every bit. Residential.
That's nonsense. They want to nationalize. It must all belong to the state.
They want to nationalize everything.
I think that's nonsense.
What?
Yeah, that's nonsense. I don't see that happening. But
and he also said, oh, white people are racist and they must pay for their mistakes. I'm like, wow. That's terrible.
I know black people who are racist, you know.
No, yeah, but I think we need to look past people's skin color and look at people
but that's
for who
what I'm
they
saying
are.
to you, that we need leadership that is balanced. If you're going to put people who are angry and filled with emotion and chips on their shoulder or whatever, to manage such a matter, we're going to end up in a place where we don't want to be. Even people with vision. Where do we want to? It's all about the country. First of all, as a leader of South Africa, you have to keep a nation together. We agreed on the things that we agreed upon because we're a divided nation before. We're trying to forge this nation that is together. Despite our diversity, we can still be together. We've seen that we can still be together.
And it's a year of Nelson Mandela. Come on.
But you don't want a leader who's going to come here and use those divisions
for self-gain.
For self-gain, exactly. For political experience. Well. Yeah. And Mandela was good. I think the speeches that, to give you, I know that you like Cyril. No, I don't dislike him. Don't worry. I just think that
I respect him. I think it's better than where we were.
Yeah, but
and I think we have to be optimistic. We have to have hope.
Yeah, exactly. But he says he's very good. He speaks well. He says beautiful things. But but he doesn't always follow with action. That's what worries me. Not always.
Yeah.
You know,
the guy's been in office for what? Like not even a month.
I would like to. I understand that he's not politically as strong as Zuma was when he came into power.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Zuma had everybody behind him. This one has got the ANC that's divided. Some people are fearing that they might end up in the courts. You know, they're looking over their shoulders, so he has to appease them. I understand all that, but you see, there are two ways to look at this sort of at what's going on in South Africa.
You have 20 seconds. We have to wrap
you
up.
can look at it from an ANC perspective, and you can look at it from a South Africa perspective. My view is that everything that's good for the ANC is not necessarily good for South Africa.
There we go. We have to get you back, Sully.
Okay.
Thank you, my brother.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, man.
Okay.
Another episode of Talking Point was Stephen Taylor. Sully, where can we find you on social media? Are you on social media?
I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. Well,
what's it, Sully Moeng?
Sully Moeng. It's a tip down.
Thank you, brother. Thank you for your time, man.
Okay.
There we go. Another episode of Talking Point with Stephen Taylor. Catch me at Stephen Taylor SA on Facebook and Twitter. God bless. Take care.